I've got to talk about, I guess Daryl and Dina, obviously very contrasting emotions in their individual races. What was your reaction to both of them?
So I wasn't actually in the Olympic Village at the time. So I don't know if people know, but we were kind of drip fed into the village because of the whole isolation COVID thing. So I came in, I think maybe a day or two after the 100-meter finals. Obviously, it was really difficult because I'm quite close with both of them, and you want everyone to do well. And we knew that as a team, we wanted everyone to be in their best possible form as well. It was extremely inspiring. Obviously, from Dara's point of view, she did absolutely amazing. But it was really hard as well watching Dina do her interview and stuff, and kind of wanting to be a supportive teammate, but then also not wanting to put pressure on her. We didn't really know what the situation was in terms of her injury and how she was coming back, and not wanting to step on any toes and being really kind of considerate about that as well in terms of practices and whatnot. But overall, I think the women's 100 meters overall was just absolutely incredible. I mean, like 10:60 now, it sounds like a normal time now. But I remember at the time I was watching it with Ashley, I was watching it with Kat, and I was watching it with Kilty. And I remember saying, like, I can't believe that was just 1 in 10.6. Like, the goalpost has literally moved for women's for women's sprinting. It's just completely changed. And it probably was the most inspired. I had goosebumps everywhere, the most inspired I'd ever felt watching the athletics and thinking, I want to be there one day. That's where I want to be.
So quickly, and Dina, was there any point where you thought, oh, this is going to be difficult and she may not actually, compete in the relays? Because I guess there was always that thing, wasn't there? Because the relays were so much later than the 100s and the 200s that she would have that time to recover. But actually, from a standing start, it would be easier in terms of her injuries as well.
Yeah, I think she kind of had said in an interview that she was going to do the relays, and we knew that she's a fighter and she will turn up if she can. She's one of those people, she would never pull out if she didn't want to or she didn't have to. So we knew that she was going to do what she could. It was more so mentally, like you empathize with that kind of situation and not wanting, when we have our last practices before we go out there and our last practice as a team before we do the heat and whatnot, I didn't want her to feel like she had to overcompensate. It's just like the biggest, not trauma, but I just felt I felt bad for her. I felt sad for her. And I wanted her to feel like when she was around us, she could feel confident and happy. And we let her have her time. That was the most important thing, not rushing anything and being a team. That's the most important thing, really.
And I guess that team going into the relays, as you said, would have been so inspired by what happened with the individual women's 100 meters, not just that Daryl got into that final, but also the caliber of women that she was up against in that final. I mean, the fact that, that wasn't even the quickest time of the entire year. And then Elaine went 10:54 in, Eugene. I mean, what have you made of, because Johan Blake said to me that it's just crazy. And he said the same thing, that the goalposts have moved, similar to the era of, when he was with, Usain and Justin and Tyson, and that this is that kind of era right now for the women. And the world champs are in Eugene next year. I mean, we could be looking at a world record potentially.
It's very, very possible. And I think it's always good when something like that happens, when the culture around a specific event changes. It's happened across different events, and I was waiting for it to happen in the women's one. And you have one of two choices, whether it's kind of stand in awe, which we all obviously were in awe, but then also to realize that, it's an opportunity for us all to level up and all try and push ourselves to be on that same level. I think I definitely, now I'm going into winter training and going into my sessions, understanding that things have changed, that the quality is so much higher now, and I'm so prepared to be a part of that. It was the same with like British female sprinting as well. Like when the change of culture happened with us, and now you have, I think, 4 of us in the top 5 of all time. That's crazy. Do you know what I mean? It's indicative of the fact that things have moved on, and you have to work harder, you have to push yourself to be up there, and that can only be a good thing moving forward.
And in terms of the relays themselves, then, how was that feeling? Because the final, you've seen the individuals, and then you see the likes of Elaine and Shelly-Ann on the track, and you think to yourselves, okay, Jamaica is strong, the US are pretty strong, we've got a great team. And it was quite close between you and the States. There were like 4 tenths between you and Silver.
Yeah, and do you know what? We did not have good changeovers in the final either. I think we, in my heart, I was going for gold, and we knew it was going to be tough because the Jamaicans were in such incredible shape. Obviously, they just taken 1, 2, and 3 in the women's one. We were going for gold. We knew we could get silver, and bronze for us was like, it was amazing to leave with a medal. And I remember Daryl and I after were like, "Oh my god, we got a medal!" So exciting! But we knew we could have got silver. Our changeovers were not great in the moment, but testament to us because how much we practice and how much confidence we have in each other. I don't think a lot of teams could have come back from how tight our changeovers were. So the fact that we were still able to cinch that medal with less than perfect kind of technical race just shows where we can really go in the next Olympic cycle.
So what was the feeling like running around the track then? Because obviously your major championship medals have come in the relays, but you've been, you've been in Berlin, you've been obviously, with the Worlds as well. How does the Olympics, I know there wasn't a crowd, but how did the Olympics compare to that? Just like, I guess in that moment when you're running, you're not thinking about anything else, but when, you've crossed that line, you've realized you've got the medal, it does kind of then really sink in. You're speaking to Jeanette Quatchy and Greg Rutherford and you're thinking, wow, this is pretty cool.
You know what? It didn't even sink in then, I'll be so honest, because the adrenaline's high. You're in the moment as well. When you're doing a job like that, you're not thinking, oh my God, this is the Olympics. Oh my God, it's an Olympic medal. You're thinking, we just want to cross the finish line first. The same way I would if it was like a Diamond League, if it was an open meet. It's the same mentality. It's the same. It's what I love about athletics.
Or a sports day, going back to your...
Or a sports day.
Yeah, going back to your play.
But it's the same feeling, essentially. You just want to win. You just want to cross the finish line first. And that's how it feels. It didn't really sink in for me, I'm not going to lie, until I was on holiday and the season was over and I realized that I have this medal that is just such a huge, like, momentous thing in our sport. And it's something that I can show my children and my grandchildren. And an Olympic medal will never lose value. And I think that's what stuck with me. But in the moment, it sounds so weird. And I think maybe because there wasn't a crowd as well, we're so used to having big crowds with relays. It just felt like we were doing our job. That's what we always do. It could have been a Europeans, it could have been a Commonwealth, but it was the Olympics. And that's just where it happened to be.